Creating the life you want doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, I want to show you how to make it very simple and how to materialize and manifest the things that you desire in a very direct and practical way. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to, one, do something you might not do often, is think about you. A lot of us, especially those of us in the spiritual community, we identify with being a giver to the point where it actually is put above yourself. Now, here's the thing. You can do both, okay? In fact, you can be a better giver if you put you first, okay? Now, what I like to talk about is this concept of, and some people find it very, very ironic because it sounds kind of contradictory or like an oxymoron, where you are, in fact, spiritually selfish. This right here, I think, can encapsulate all of what I understand and have learned when it comes to my 30 years plus of spirituality, is recognizing this right here. When you come to this understanding of being spiritually selfish, you essentially have the blueprint, the formula to all of what you seek to achieve in spirituality. Now, it means essentially that spiritually, right, you recognize all things are one. You recognize the one thing, the oneness of all things. You recognize that you are not really a self, that everything around you, everything that you experience, everything that you see, hear, touch, think about, somebody else has told you about, though you haven't experienced it yourself directly, all of that is you, okay? We often think that we're separate from everything because we identify with the ego so much, you see. But as you take this spiritual journey on a conscious level, you understand that you are not the ego. The ego is just a mechanism to tether us to this physical world. It is part of the game of life, but that isn't who you are, right? It's like a basketball player. You can ask them, you can see what they do for a living and how they spend the most of their times. A baseball player, you can see what they're doing and how they focus their time, but they are bigger than that, okay? How they play the ball, though, is with a tool, right? How we play the game of life is with a tool called the ego. And so mastering the ego means taking this spiritual journey of recognizing that we are not separate, but we are one. You and everything around you is one thing, not a separate thing. So that changes the definition of selfishness. Usually we identify and understand selfishness from a very egotistical point of view. We think that selfishness means that I, right, only worry about the self, whereas everything else is separate. Right? The ego functions from a place of separation. That's just kind of its purpose. Now, why is it that, you may ask? Why does the ego function from a place of separation? It is because, like I said before, the ego is a part of tethering us to this physical realm. And in order to protect our physical body and our physical existence, we have to be able to identify danger. Okay, we need to be able to identify things that can potentially harm us. The issue is, again, we've identified with the ego so much that we forget the truth that we are actually one with all things. That's part of the game, though, right? That's part of the game, is to recognize how, in fact, to use this mechanism, this tool, right, to transcend it, to be better than it, to not be just the ego, but to ascend to a point of recognizing that the true game is to understand oneness, to remember oneness, because that is the ultimate truth. That is the underlying journey. The destination is to recognize oneness. And I'm not just talking about recognizing oneness conceptually, but conceptually, right? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, essentially that being your very essence, coming into that reality, right? So when we think about spiritual selfishness, we are talking about putting yourself first, you first, and then recognizing that if you are complete, if you are taken care of, if you are provided for, if you have all the things that you need to be at your most optimal level, then you can in fact be a better giver. The problem is many people are a giver, right? But they're functioning on less than 50% of their full potential. Okay. And then the longer you go at that, the less you got to give, right? You're just going down 40% of your potential. You're going down 20% to your potential, 10% of your potential, because you're not replenishing yourself. You're just focusing on giving because you heard that giving is what our purpose is. And that is a truth. That is a fundamental truth. Yes, being of service to others is in fact our purpose here, right? Because you must recognize that when you give to others from a place of spirituality, you are essentially giving to yourself. Why? Because again, we are all one. We are one and we are connected. When I give to you, I have to acknowledge that I'm also giving to myself. But what we fail to recognize is that when I give to myself, I am also giving to you, because I am recharging myself. I am giving myself to the things that are going to allow me to feel happy, fulfilled, and in a space where I am essentially at a place where I am empowered, right? If I'm empowered, that means I have, and I'm consistently recharging myself. I am empowering myself, meaning I am continuously giving myself more energy, more vitality to do what, right? To be of service. Now, how do we do that? Let's get into how do we actually put ourselves first, okay? So that way we can truly be in practice of spiritual selfishness. Now, let's think about all the things that's going on in our lives right now. Let's think about all the things that we got to think about on a consistent basis, right? So first, even though we don't think about ourselves first, let's put ourselves, right, you, right in the middle, okay? This is you. Now, what are the things you think about pretty much on a consistent basis, right? You probably think about bills. You probably, think about your kids. You think about your job. Okay. You may think about, a hobby, right? You may think about, your health. You may think about a business idea. Okay. What else is there? You may think about what you're going to eat today, right? Food. You may think about, I already said job, maybe your car, right? Your house or apartment. You may think about, family. Okay. You may think about all these things. Now, the question is, and this is a question that because of the nature of the content, I can't have a dialogue with you, but how much of these things do you think of most often? Okay. How much of these things essentially dominate the majority of your day? Okay. And I'm going to attempt to categorize these or put these into perspective. Okay. Chances are most times you're thinking about bills. Okay. Bills relate to your car, relates to your house, relates to your job, right? Because the more you work or the more jobs you have, the more you can handle your bills. Um, the kids are also part of the bills, right? Because you want to provide, you want to get things for them. Let's think family, maybe family needs help with some money. And those probably are the major things. Whereas when it comes to, let's see, that business idea, right? You keep pushing that off. Food, you probably have like, you may make some dinner, but it's rare nowadays that we make dinner for the family every single night. So that's probably going to be something that, gets put in the back burner. We'll eat, but is it quality food? Health, that also relates to food, right? Or are you going to the gym, right? So let's think, the gym. You probably want to get more in shape, right? You want to lose some weight. What about the last thing? What about hobby? What about a hobby or even a passion, right? These are the things that usually go at the bottom of the list as far as priority. So these things right here are essentially thought of last. Okay. Oh, hey, how about this? How about this? Classic me time, right? How about that? We rarely do that. Okay. We rarely put that into a perspective unless we're already at the point of basically no return and we're about to have a breakdown, right? Or we're about to shut down or we're about to just kind of blow up on everybody because we're not being spiritually selfish. We're focusing on all these other things that society says we should focus on and we should put all of our energy on. So by the time we get to say, me time, your purpose or your passion or your hobby, by the time we even think about the gym or health or eating right or even that business idea that we've had in our minds for 2, 3, 5 years, we're exhausted, right? We have nothing left in the tank. So you're already functioning probably at like 50% of your capacity to give. Now you're also giving, right, to all these other things. And so what does that leave you with? Doesn't leave you with much, right? So let's try this. Let's do something different. And this is the point here. It's about being spiritually selfish. Let's do something different, right? So instead of putting the bills first, the car first, the kids first, the job, the family, the house, the apartment, now I'm not saying don't handle those things and don't do those things, right? Those things have to be taken care of. This is true. What I am saying is let's focus on prioritizing these things differently, because when you prioritize them differently, something amazing happens. They all get done. When you prioritize the things that are outside of your nature or your desire, we tend to leave the things that you desire, right? We tend to leave those so far behind that we push them to, it will happen. One day I'll get to it. I'll try it tomorrow. Okay. But all this other stuff gets our immediate attention, gets all of our energy, right? And the reason why it gets all of our energy, because again, you're already functioning at 50% of your capacity. Why? Because you are not empowering yourself. You're not recharging your battery. You see? So what you need to be doing is you need to be putting your energy first on things like passion, hobby, on things like me time, your yourself, as far as what makes you happy, what calms you down, what gives you a sense of peace. Of course, you need to be focusing on your health first. Okay. You need to be thinking about your food. What are you consuming? You need to spend time being more active. And finally, okay, what about that business idea? Because again, that business idea that's been mulling over in your head that you've been thinking about, if you took care of that, a lot of these things that you had once put first, like your bills, the car, the house, the job, the family, the kids, if you had handled this business idea, right, that is, chances are linked to your purpose, that would have created the money for you to handle all these other things that you're spending so much time and energy focused on because you're just simply working a job, okay, or a few jobs. But if you handle this business idea, you can scale that to the point where you can essentially make unlimited amounts of money once you figure out a system and once you figure out the business. But we are not putting those things first. Think about it this way. These things that we usually put in the back of the priority list are the things that absolutely can make the most impact in your life and provide you with the most fulfillment and the most joy. So why do we put it at the back? It's partly because society, because our community, because our upbringing said that the other things are more important. So we have to do those first. And all that I'm saying is put the me time first, put the purpose first, right? Me time first, purpose first, put your health first, put your passion, your purpose first. First is all I'm saying. Okay. So when you put those things first, everything else essentially still gets done with what you have remaining. But because you have put the things that you are passionate about first, okay, you are essentially recharging. You're recharging your capacity, okay? You're recharging you. And therefore, you are now functioning at more like 80%, okay? And so then you can give, right, to those other things from a higher level of percentage and a higher level of optimal, you know, spiritual fitness, optimal level of existence in life. But you must, right? You must put you first. So whatever it is, the business idea, right? Your health. Your health should be always top of the list. Let's get into passion, your hobbies, okay? Your food intake, thinking about how you're eating, going to the gym or physical activity, you put these things in first. Because when you put these and you handle these first, then it translates over to you being more engaged with your family, with your kids, with your home, okay, even with the job. You see what I'm saying? Being more mindful about maintenance in your car. So you put these things first, okay? These things first fuel you. They bring satisfaction to you. They give you more energy and excitement. Now, when I say do these things first, I am literally talking about handle these things first throughout your day. I am saying when you wake up in the morning, all right, you are fresh. Even if you are feeling a little tired, you're tired, but you still go to work, right? Put yourself first. You're tired? Okay, that's okay. You are getting up, right? You maybe meditate, visualize this business idea, start writing out some notes. You get up, you go for a walk, you go for a nice little jog, you make yourself a nice breakfast, maybe perhaps a smoothie or some fresh juice. You see, you go to the gym, you handle your passion, you think about some things that you are interested in doing. You do that first thing in the morning before everybody else gets up. The house is quiet, the world is sleeping, and you handle those things. Even if you're spending a few minutes doing it, 5 minutes with this, 5 minutes with that, 5 minutes with this. Then, right, once you do that, trust me when I tell you, you're going to feel so much energy, okay? You're going to feel so much energy because all of these things that you want to do, they're going to charge you up. They're going to bring you more energy and more life. Passion and aligning with those passions. The reason why it's called passion, right, is because it gives you more. It lights up a fire within you. You see, it stimulates you and it gives you more purpose and connection with life. So once you do that and you handle your stuff, the things that you actually want to do, then, right, you remember you are charging, right, you're recharging yourself by handling these things. And then you go over and handle the other stuff, right? I forgot to mention bills on this other side of, responsibilities. You handle those things. When you handle all the things that you should be putting first, your business idea, your health, your passion, your hobby, your food, your gym, as these things begin to grow and manifest into results for you, they are going to translate over into positively affecting these responsibilities, right, that we all should be handling anyway. But it makes these things way easier. So say I gave you an example. If you focus on that business idea, it's going to bring you more money to handle covering your bills. Makes your life a lot easier. When you handle your health, your food intake, you're more active. Guess what? It affects how you engage with family, with your kids, all right? How you take care of your home because you're now more in shape to do certain things. You're not feeling tired all the time. Even how you show up in that job, okay? The job eventually will disappear because your business idea will eventually replace it, all right? Or at least minimize it, right? You have to just work the job just a little bit, because your business idea will take you to a point of covering most of the bills. So that is what I need you to understand when it comes to putting yourself first and aligning with your future self, because as I talk about the future self, like in the Future Self Frequency book, we have to really understand that this is very practical. It's just about organizing yourself. It's about organizing your thoughts. It's about organizing your energy. It's about organizing the different elements of who you are, right? Your consciousness, superconscious mind, conscious mind, subconscious mind, ego. It's about just organization. It's about making somewhat of a list of priorities when it comes to all these things, and then just moving forward, right? Then just pursuing these things. So putting yourself first is, in a spiritual sense, and being spiritually selfish is extremely practical. And you can apply it not only to, say, these goals, but everything in life. You have to always put yourself first. I say you cannot lend somebody a helping hand if your hand is broken. You're not going to make a difference, right? You'll both be miserable. So make sure you are healthy. Make sure everything you got going on is arranged in a way that allows you to have an excess of energy to exert and provide service to other people. Don't give so much of yourself to others that it depletes you, because chances are, though they could be somebody who is kind just like you and willing to help you, there is a chance that they may not, revitalize you and give you the support that you once gave them. And that's okay too. We're not looking to be at a space of pettiness and tit for tat about, oh, I gave you energy, so you should be giving me energy, or I gave you help, or you should be giving me help. What people don't understand too about the law of karma, right, is that people think karma is something that is supposed to be an exchange, right, between you and another person, right? A lot of people do that. They think, oh, if I help this person, essentially, they're the ones who are supposed to help me back. But when we again, remember what I said, going back to this understanding of oneness, okay, it really doesn't work that way. You have to look at it as when you give to another person, you are truly giving to the universe, not to that person. Okay. The person may be acting almost like a representative. Okay. But essentially, don't think of that as the person you are supposed to receive reciprocation from as you contribute and give energy, right? You want to think in terms that they just are the face. Okay. They are just the face of whom you are giving to or what you're giving. Okay. But you want to think of karma as just the general marketplace, right? The general marketplace or the exchange board or committee, but you want to look at it as just like when you go to the bank, right? And you go to the bank teller and you give them money. You're not giving to the person, right? That person is not taking that money and put it in their account. They're just simply the face that represents the bank. And so you have to think about it that way when it comes to karma. That person you're helping is just the face of essentially the bank of the universe. And you can go to any other branch location, which is essentially any place and everything where you can receive the benefits or you can withdraw, right, that money from anywhere, anytime. Essentially, we're talking about energy. So just because you give to somebody, understand that when you give to somebody, chances are you're not going to get it from that person, but you are in fact getting it from the universe. Okay. And then if you do it right, not right, but if you do it with a sense of mindfulness and belief, you'll get it. It'll be like multiplied. Okay. It'll be multiplied. So you just won't get things back one for one. Okay. You'll get it back twofold, threefold, fourfold, tenfold, 20-fold, 100-fold, depending on how you and your belief systems are aligned, you see. But nonetheless, it will come back to you. And so, but you have to always recognize that when you are giving, right, you are giving to the universe, but you and the universe are, in fact, one. Okay. So you see, there's a lot of layers here when it comes to identifying you and then giving to the universe, but when you understand you and the universe are one, that's how the karma works. When you give, you're essentially giving to yourself on a grand scale. You're giving with the understanding that this is going to come back to me because that is the belief system that I've created. That is the reality that I've created for myself in this existence. So again, it helps to not think of you and the universe as separate. When you recognize the oneness, then you understand when you take care of yourself, okay? Because everything starts and ends with you. When you take care of yourself, you essentially are taking care of the universe and everyone in it and everybody you love and everybody you want to help and support. You see? So this is why you must put yourself first. Put yourself first, understand the connection between you and the universe, and everything you give to the universe, recognizing you are the universe, always comes back to you because you are giving to yourself. You see? So I just wanted to share that. It was a simple thought that I often have to share with people because a lot of people fail to recognize why it's so important to give to oneself. Okay. Because oftentimes we're not looking at ourselves as one with the universe. We're not looking at ourselves as one with another person. Okay. But we are at the same time, because we don't do that, we unintentionally exert and give energy to other people, not recognizing that it is more important, it is imperative to give that energy to yourself, to take care of yourself, to get all the things that you desire from an authentic place. You see what I'm saying? Not from a place of, not from a place of greed, right? Because greed is all driven by the ego. Greed is an expression, a reality of separation. Okay? This is not real. This is not true. This is an illusion. This is an illusion of somebody who functions only from the ego. Remember, the ego functions from a place, its mechanism, its programming is things are separate. Okay? And that's only, again, to provide us with a perspective of protecting ourselves from physical harm. But it isn't based on truth from a spiritual consciousness point of view. So to think of oneself is not again to pull from other people and take from other people or take from the universe. You see, because then again, that means there's a separation. But when you understand oneness is, oneness is consciousness, recognizing, right, truth, that everything is one. And this is where I talk about you essentially being the creator. Okay. Now, a lot of people will say, well, what does that mean? Some people get upset when I say you're the creator, because they get into their religious programming of God is the creator. Yeah, there is a grand creator here that created all things, but you have to acknowledge and understand that you are a spark of that. And the reality is, from your own consciousness, right, from your own awareness and perspective, which is all you can ever experience, that is the thing that is actually creating the experiences that you have. And that is why I call you the creator. People talk about co-creation, right, but is in fact creation. You and the universe are one. There is no separation. So there is no co-create. To say somebody co-creates means that you're in the back seat. It's like saying you're the co-pilot, but the pilot is the one really in charge. Well, from your point of view, all there is what you're experiencing and what you're seeing. So you have to take ownership of that. And that means being the pilot. That means being the creator, recognizing that you are responsible. You are the one who is the master and is capable. The universe and everything else follows you. Okay. Even me, I have my own individual consciousness, my own desires, my own ambitions, my own thoughts. If me and you had an exchange and I were to exert, right, a belief system on you or a way of thinking on you, you still get to decide, right, if it resonates with you or not, if you accept it or not, if you believe in it or not, no matter what I say and no matter if it makes sense to you or if it makes perfect sense. This is why I don't believe in debating people. I don't believe in arguing with people. I'm not interested in debating because the reality is a debate never convinces somebody of something or your point of view, because they will always have their point of view. Now we having a discussion and somebody's like, hey, I've been wondering about this thing. What do you think? That's a little bit different. But as far as trying to convince people of their reality and to change their reality, it's futile and pretty much ridiculous, because I understand the divine God within everybody. And I know this is your reality. Cool. If it works for you, if you're happy, keep it. You know what I mean? But if you want some perspective and some understanding, have a discussion, listen to somebody else's perspective. You may learn to expand your consciousness to a point of breaking free from those limiting beliefs, because we all have limiting beliefs to a degree. The whole point of spirituality, right, is I was going to say break free, but is actually true freedom. Okay. Spirituality is about freedom in every thought that we have, even if we consider it to be something that is positive, right? When we think about our affirmations and we put a lot of energy and thought into them, there's still restrictions within them. So there is no, even those who have reached enlightenment, they didn't stop meditating, right? They didn't stop practicing mindfulness. They didn't stop helping, because there's still levels and chambers, right, to achieve and to access. Because as long as we are in a limitless experience of being a human being, then there are always going to be things that we have to break free. And even, I've heard it numerous times when people have near death experiences where they have these conversations with these entities that say, oh yeah, there are many layers of existence. So even when we graduate from this experience on planet Earth, we're going to go to another level, and we're going to keep expanding and keep growing and keep, challenging or pursuing or understanding deeper meanings of life and existence. So my apologies. I went on a bit of a tangent there. Sometimes I do that, and sometimes I have to work on keeping myself focused on the message. But ultimately, this is the point here. Okay. Put yourself first, because everything starts and ends with you. Okay? So when you start with somebody else first, you're not starting from a place of things just being natural. You always have to start with taking full responsibility, accountability. You always have to recognize that's the truth of what it is you're experiencing. You're experiencing from your consciousness, from your way of thinking, from your belief system, from your point of view. Okay? So when you recognize that it starts with you, you must recognize that everything must be grounded or intentionally put in a position where your needs are provided for, because that is what this life is about, to provide the experience that you are meant to have here. All right. So have the experience that you're meant to have. Do not take that away from you, because when you take that away from you, then it creates the suffering. It creates depression. It creates anxiety. It creates unhappiness. And that's not what I want for you. So put yourself first, create all the happiness and beauty within yourself, for yourself. And then when you hit that point where you're at 100%, okay, recharged and, ready to go, then you can contribute, right, and help the rest of the world and everybody else. Thank you so much. Feel free. Go to futureselffrequency.com, purchase the Future Self Frequency book and the My Future Self journal. You can also go to drabundant.com, where you can actually get the Future Self Frequency, the first chapter, absolutely free. Thanks for listening. Feel free to leave a comment below if you have any questions, and I'll definitely make a video about it. Thanks. Peace and abundance always.